Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Snetterton and the second of the 3 races this weekend for the BRDC British Formula 3 Championship. They had a race yesterday, 2 more races this afternoon, well, this morning and this afternoon here in this, the second meeting of the season for one of the leading championships in single-seater racing. My name is Andy McEwen. I'll be here to talk you through all of the action out there on the circuit. Graham Goodwin alongside me. Come to you in a moment, Graham. Let's rattle through this grid, though, very quickly, which is a reverse grid based on yesterday's race results. So Lucas Pettersson, who was last in yesterday's race, is on pole today. Chris Wright alongside him. Josh Mason and Nazim Asman on row 2, with Pavan Ravishankar and Ulyss Topal on row number 3. Benjamin Pedersen and Sassakorn Chimankal are on the 4th row, with Manuel Maldonado and Caelan Frederick one to watch potentially, rounding out the top 10. Neil Verhagen and Ayrton Simmons are next up, ahead of Hampus Eriksson and Kian Jewis. We're getting into some of the quick runners from yesterday's race, with Clement Novalak and Jonathan Hoggard, the winner from yesterday's first encounter of the weekend, starting right at the back of the grid. Well, Graham Goodwin, the BRDC British Formula 3 Championship is one of the essential rungs on the motor racing ladder, isn't it? If you want to get to Formula 1 or the higher echelons of motorsport in general, this is one of the places to be.
Yeah, good morning, Andy. Good morning, everybody. Yes, indeed, breeding ground for future world-leading talent. Always has been, always will be in Formula 3. British Formula 3 Championship, one with a very proud heritage indeed, and lots to look for in this encounter this morning. Reverse grid, as you just told us, but also tyre strategy. It's part of the skill set that these guys are going to have to work with for what they all hope, and we do too, is going to be a very long-lasting career in the upper echelons of motorsport.
Indeed, this reverse grid race tends to be full of intrigue and excitement as well, especially around a circuit like this where you can overtake. Sometimes in slicks and wings single-seaters it can be tricky to work your way up the order. We had no retirements yesterday either, though, so it is a full grid reversal. So the race winner, Jonathan Hoggard, who took his second victory of the season yesterday, has to overtake 15 other cars if he wants to take his third one in this race. That perhaps is a bit unlikely, but you score a point for every car that you overtake in these reverse grid races, so any ground he can make up will be helpful. Round number 5 of the BRDC British Formula 3 Championship about to get underway here at the Snetterton 300 circuit. Lights will go out. Away we go. The field rushes down towards Rich's corner with Lucas Pettersson, the blue car, on pole position. He will lead them down towards that first corner. Side by side by the looks of it for second place, but Chris Wright will slot through into that second position. And Nazim Asman there, the number 7 car, trying to go right round the outside of everybody. Someone's off further back. That may have been Hoggard, I fear. We'll pick up on that in a moment or two as the field descends upon the Wilson hairpin, a real pinch point on the circuit, that tight right-hander, one of the slowest corners on this 3-mile Snetterton 300 circuit. Despite one car on the grass at turn 1 though, Graham, yes, they are all safely through the first couple of corners, just about.
Neat and tidy, though. A bit of a squirrely moment for one of the cars further back in the pack. Look for that early overtaking from the cars at the back here. Yet to explain exactly what went wrong in turn 1 for the car at the back of the pack now, but it has been neat and tidy. That's the relief. Now we can settle down to see who's got the pace.
Yes, so in theory, the quicker drivers are coming through from the very back of the field, which puts them in the danger zone in a way in these early laps when things can and often do go wrong. Side-by-side action here towards the right-hander at Williams. That is the number 20 car of Benjamin Pedersen, trying to find a way past car number 7, Nazim Asman. So Pedersen's had a good start. He started 7th, and the orange machine, by my reckoning, is in about 4th place as they go down the Bentley straight towards Brundle and Nelson. Another good overtaking opportunity here, and Pedersen sweeps right around the outside at Brundle. That gives him the inside line for Nelson, and Benjamin Pedersen is on a real charge up the order here. His next target will be Chris Wright in front of him. They sweep through the bomb hole down towards Coram Corner. This high-speed section of the circuit is where it can be difficult to follow another car closely, but it helps when that other car, Graham, gets it all wrong and opens the door for you.
He did rather. I think he was spending too much time on his mirrors and not enough time looking where it's supposed to be going. He's lost in momentum as they come round towards completing the lap. And we've now got the commentary dream, which is Pettersson and Pedersen.
3 abreast behind as well for 3rd position. This is going to end in tears, surely. Down towards the first corner. That is Neil Verhagen. There's a lock-up for Asman, though, and he shuffles off wide. That is 21, I think, isn't it? Which is Josh Mason into the barriers. And the Lannon Racing driver, unfortunately, was an innocent victim in all of that. Look at this though, it's like the start of the race again, isn't it? As these quick drivers, they know, don't they, Graham? You have to make progress early on. Yes, it's the most dangerous point of the race, but it's also when everyone's closer together, you can pick them all off.
Absolutely right. The other factor, as we said just at the start of the race, is tyres. Most of the cars at the front of this grid started on new tyres. Very limited tyre allocation in the BRDC F3 Championship. Another car off to the outside there.
That was Manuel Maldonado, the number 33 car, who coming into this race had a bit of a tricky start to the season. He was down in 7th place in the points, the position in which he finished the 2018 championship. Manuel was the highest placed driver from last year's championship to return this year. Indeed, Graham, the safety car is out. That will, I assume, be because of Josh Mason's stricken car turn 1. Not good news, though, for the race leader at the moment, because the race leader is Lucas Pettersson. He had a 2.3 second lead at the end of 1 lap of racing. That lead will now be eradicated entirely.
And the undeniable gait of a depressed racing driver there as he steps away from his Tartus. This is good news for those starting from the back, of course. This is just going to close it back up again. Negates the advantage that the cars at the front of this grid have had from that new rubber. We'll talk about who was on new tyres as they get behind the safety car. So this will be a pretty rapid recovery. It's at a place where that car can be recovered reasonably quickly. And indeed, here comes the JCB.
Yeah, the live snatching operation here at Snetterton, which just speeds up this whole process. So here's the replay. Nazim Azman there, the red and white car on the inside, locks up, and poor old Josh Mason
had nowhere to go. No. He just locked up, ran wide, just exactly where Josh Mason needed to be. Went off to the left, driver's left, and once off on that grass, I'm afraid no way back from there. You could see him trying to do what he could. Slick tyres, wet grass, no recovery.
No, indeed. So Josh Mason then is our first official retirement. However, Sassakorn Chimankol is in the pit lane, and I suspect may have been the car we saw running wide at the start, so potential damage for him. He's still in the pit lane. We hope to see him return to the circuit before much longer. In fact, I can see out the window, I think he just has done exactly that. So the order then is Lucas Pettersson, the race leader, from pole position. You sort of would expect that, really, but he managed to avoid all of the carnage behind him on the opening lap. Second place is Benjamin Pedersen, and those two were together all day at Alton Park, and it looks like they're going to be battling for the race lead after this safety car comes back into the pit lane. Third place, Neil Verhagen, who started 11th. That's not a bad start, is it, Graham?
Very, very good indeed.
And then Chris Wright 4th, and Caelan Frederick 5th. He's also gained some ground. Caelan Frederick started 10th, and Caelan, who won this equivalent race at Alton Park last time out. The middle of the 3 races is always the reversed grid race, and Caelan had a tricky weekend with that exception. He was able, though, to take the victory in the reversed grid race. Nazim Azman is 6th, Clement Novalak is 7th, so he started 15th and has already gained lots of ground as well, and that's significant because Clement Novalak was the championship leader by just 5 points coming into this race. The man that he had a 5-point advantage over is Jonathan Hoggard, and he is 10th, so job done so far in a way for Clement Novalak, but Jonathan Hoggard will be looking to try and latch onto his tail once we go racing again. So interesting start to the race there, Graham. Lots of shuffling as we expected. The question I have now is whether or not Lucas Pettersson will be able to build out that lead again as he did on the initial start.
Absolutely, the one to watch as well further down that pack, Jonathan Hoggard, on a hat-trick of wins, won the last 2 races. Last race of Alton Park and the first race here yesterday, as away goes the Lannon car, the 21 car. But we've then got into 2 other factors to link in with those tyres. Number 1 is they're not using those new tyres as they could behind the safety car. But again, think about this. The cars starting from the back that have made that remarkable progress, will those tyres hang on towards the end of this race, or do the new tyres come back in with pace in the closing laps? We're going to go back to green flag racing. We do now. 13.5 minutes to go.
Yeah, back down towards Rich's corner they go then, and already the move for the race lead is attempted there by the number 20 car of Benjamin Pedersen. Didn't do it into Rich's, and in fact by going in on that tight line he slows himself down on the exit and allows Neil Verhagen to close in behind. Another move being made there by Caelan Frederick.
A little bit of an airborne moment over the curbs there for the 35 car.
Dear, well, that's Chris Wright losing 4th place in spectacular fashion by the sound of it. And he could lose another one now to Nazim Asman, who's looking to the inside line down towards Agostini. So that's the first side-by-side battle then. Chris Wright is 35. Nazim Asman is up the inside of both of them. Brilliant opportunistic driving there for Asman. Gains 2 spots. You don't see that often, do you?
No, that was good work. Could see a little bit of kind of dicing between the two ahead. They were too involved in their own battle. Fighting back now though, 17 car back up the inside.
Yep, and Kian Jewis taking advantage too. So Kian Jewis is starting to also make his presence felt now. Oh dear, second time in a lap Chris Wright has had all 4 wheels off the tarmac as he runs wide over the curb at Williams and loses place after place after place. That is probably the worst place to get a bad exit because it leads onto one of the longest and fastest straights in British motorsport, the Bentley Straight, and then into the heartbreaking zone of Brundle and Nelson where the freight train could not be much closer together, could it? There's Jonathan Hogarth, the Ayrton Simmons, excuse me, the number 12 car, who was at the back of that little queue. The green car then of Kian Jewis, excuse me, he was 8th at the start of the lap. He'll have gained a position or so on this, the 4th lap of the race. And Ayrton Simmons, who was 3rd in the points coming into this race on 72 though, had a bit of a points deficit to try and make up. And these reverse grid races, because of their often chaotic nature, they're a good chance to go and take maybe a decent points haul away and try and close that gap to the top too.
Absolutely right, and we're seeing some of those moves coming in now up to 4th position now from a little way further back. Caelan Frederick making up ground after a couple of disappointing results in the last couple of races. A win at Hilton Park, but making ground up now, 4th position, looking for a possibility for a podium here.
Indeed, leaders then down towards Agostini, where the gap is not shooting out to quite the extent that it did on the initial start then. So Pettersson ahead of Pedersen by just over 7/10 of a second. They are gapping Neil Verhagen though in 3rd, who very shortly will have the attentions of Caelan Frederick, because Caelan in 4th position on the previous lap was a 10th or so quicker. Some sideways antics there going through the kink at Hamilton. These cars have lots of downforce and lots of grip until you start driving on the green stuff, and then you find yourself going sideways quite often, don't you?
It's all about racecraft. This is another part of the learning curve. It's not just about winning, it's about learning as well. Well, they're learning what these cars can't do, corner after corner, but the cars at the front here pretty well learning exactly what they can, almost halfway in a 20-minute race. It's been crazy action so far.
It has. Things settling into a bit of a rhythm now, but there is still more overtaking to be done here, I think. I made the point at the start of the race that it isn't all that difficult to overtake. It's never easy to overtake in a category as competitive as this, but the Snetterton 300 circuit does offer up several opportunities in which you can make a move stick. So for these quicker drivers coming from the back of the grid, then they do have some hope of getting up towards the top 5, which is exactly what we're seeing from the likes of Caelan Frederick and Kian Jewis in particular. Here is the battle then for, well, it's actually Caelan Frederick under pressure now from Nazim Asman. Yep. So Asman coming back at him. Nazim got a bit sort of mucked on the restart, didn't he? Found himself on the outside line on a few occasions. Oh, he's on the outside again now, Wilson, because Kian Jewis comes diving on the inside of him. He's got the outside line for the next corner.
Push wide again there, and the green got onto the grass. Bit of elbows there from both drivers. Mercifully all come back on the grey stuff.
Yeah, physical stuff, but look, Kian Jewis has knocked his front wing loose, so that will be doing his front downforce no good, will it?
6th place at the moment. Can he hang on to that with the reduced bite that car's going to get into the turns with the front wing?
Yeah, Kian Jewis 4th in the points then coming into this race. He was just a solitary point behind Ayrton Simmons. Ayrton is the one that's not making the progress. He's still down in 12th position. Simmons started the race in 12th, so car number 12 in 12th place. Why is he not making the progress everybody else is?
Absolutely. Meanwhile, just behind them, Hogarth has made a place up to 9th. He's looking now for 8th past Ericsson. Can't quite make it stick quite yet.
No, Kian Jewis, that wing's come off completely now, hasn't it? So he's got no front downforce, and as a result...
He's just found out.
Yeah, couldn't stop the car down at Brundle, bounces across the grass. He's surely going to have to pit, isn't he?
I should think so. That's not going to work, is it? Going to be eaten up now by the cars behind.
Yeah, what a shame then for one of the drivers who was making their presence felt towards the sharp end of the field, but he was under pressure from, he was applying the pressure, excuse me, to Nazim Asman, and got into the side of him up at the hairpin. Oh, more contact as well, and who is that that's on the grass? That is Jonathan Simmons. So I just said that his race wasn't really going to plan, and it really isn't now. He's right at the pack of the pack. Didn't quite catch who it was that fired him off the road there, but he's lucky to escape without any sort of suspension damage, isn't he?
He is rather. It's a couple of cars we've seen have a bit of bouncy moments. This is all middle of the pack, getting very mixed up indeed. Hogard have made that further place up, by the way, championship leader in the pits now after losing that front wing for Jewis, the 87 car. Getting away though, the lead of this race is Pettersson, 1.6 seconds clear now with Verhagen, also with a pretty healthy margin in third place and not making too much of an impact on Pedersen in second.
No, but the race leader then, Lucas Pettersson, the Swede, with the fastest lap as well last time around, 144.154. That compares to Jonathan Hoggard's fastest lap yesterday, 144.3. So they are going a couple of tenths quicker than they were in yesterday's race. Again, the tyre strategy may have had something to do with that, but there, the number 22 machine is the race leader. He's the fastest man on the track at the moment. All going to plan so far.
It is rather. Gets through. Reasonably neat and tidy. 22 car trying to get away, trying to keep that gap for the 7 minutes to remain here.
Yeah, 1.6 seconds was his gap at the start of the lap, and it looks to be growing again on this occasion. The question, I guess, is whether or not Neil Verhagen's going to be able to close in on Benjamin Pedersen for second place. Neil has had a second place in this equivalent race last time out of Alton Park, and a fifth and a sixth place in the next couple of races, sixth yesterday. On for another podium here. Is he quicker than Pedersen? Yes, he is, by 2 tenths. The gap between second and third is coming down ever so slightly.
It is indeed, and looks a bit racier now, the third place car, the number 26 car.
There's Clement Novalak coming through, 6th position. Nazim Asman is the next person that he will try to overhaul, and on the previous lap he was 9 tenths quicker than him, so this is maybe the next position that could change hands then. The number 17 Carling car, championship leader Clement Novalak, who had a victory in the opening round at Alton Park. He's had a couple of second place finishes as well since then, including yesterday's race, but he's made much better progress through the order than the likes of Ayrton Simmons and Jonathan Hoggard. Jonathan, by the way, still down in 8th position, so as things stand, what was a 5-point deficit for Hoggard looks set to increase.
So remember those points for the overtakes in this pack. He's got a number of those. It'll be interesting to see exactly how these points actually wrap out here. 5.5 minutes yet for him to make progress, or for others to hit trouble. And as we've already seen in the opening 15 minutes here, well, topsy-turvy stuff at both ends of the grid.
Sassakorn Chimon, by the way, has just set the outright fastest first sector. He's down in 14th place and some 38 seconds behind Kian Jewis in 13th, so he's not likely to overtake anybody with that pace, but showing the potential that Sassakorn has there. We know he's a quick driver. He's just been a little bit inconsistent over this season and indeed last year, and that's what you need to try and knock off if you're going to be a championship contender. Clement Novalak needs to maybe try a little bit less of the drifting through the bomb hole there. Got very out of shape indeed, and on this lap, as a result, I don't think he's going to take all that much time out of Nazim Asman in front of him. Number 24 is Hampus Eriksson, younger brother of Marcus Eriksson, and he is in 7th position for the time being. Things, though, as I said, starting to settle into this rhythm now. Down towards Rich's corner goes Clement Novalak, and yeah, that mistake cost him. He lost about 7 tenths of a second on that lap.
Absolutely, and he can't afford to relax because Eriksson is right there and ready to take opportunity if another mistake that way comes his way.
Race leader, though, continuing serenely on his way, isn't he? Benjamin Pedersen,
Great
Lucas Pedersen. Yeah, this is a dominant performance, isn't it, really? And it shows the significance, I think, Graham, of track position, doesn't it? We talk all the time in slicks and wings single-seater racing about the dirty air, how it's hard to follow each other all that closely. Well, the best remedy for that is to get out in front of everyone and run off into the distance.
Well, yeah, reverse grid it may be, but it's going to be interesting to see just what the confidence boost of a performance like that, you know, very controlled performance, best result so far of 9th this season for the race leader. What might this do to launch the season forward?
Yes, he came into this race, did Lucas, 14th in the championship. He'd only scored 27 points from the first 4 races of the season. And in this race, he's on for 20. He scored 20 points for a win in race 2. You score fewer points for winning the reverse grid race because quite often a lot of the work is done for you with that grid reversal, but then you have these bonus points for overtaking for those coming from further back. Races 1 and 3 are worth a few more, 35 points for a race victory in those races. So some 90 points available over each weekend, which means the championship can twist and turn. And if a driver who has aspirations of fighting for the championship come Donington Park at the end of the year has a bad weekend, then that can take you completely out of the equation, even at this early stage, can't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Just keeping an eye on that battle for 6th place, Ericsson. Just pulling a little tenth or two out of Novak ahead. Movement though, can keep it neat and tight, and Novak looking reasonably comfortable. Hogard, meanwhile, made no further progress at the moment from 8th and is not at the moment closing on the car ahead of him.
Hampus Eriksson had his best result of the season so far yesterday with a 4th place finish. Hasn't yet had a podium though in the category. He's chasing down a 6th position here, potentially if he can find a way past Clement Novak. I'm intrigued by Novak's pace here because a lap or so ago we were talking about him sort of relentlessly eating into Nazim Azman's advantage in front of him. That seems to have died a bit of a death now, and I think he's rather focusing more on his mirrors than what's going on out in front of him, because Eriksson is almost within striking range. We're about now, Graham, to head out onto the long back straight as well, so if he can pick up a toe, this could possibly be the beginnings of a challenge to make this move. He's within slipstreaming range just about, I reckon, isn't he?
Absolutely, not quite close enough for that. Looking for where the battles are going to come in the final 2 minutes of this race, and the battle involving Hogard is from behind now. This Manuel Maldonado is closing on the championship leader, an 8th place car at the moment.
Yeah, weaving this way and that. These two are teammates, of course, so they need to be careful exactly how they go about this. But Jonathan Hogard in 8th position, and comparing that to where his early championship rivals are, this has not been a brilliant race. He could rather do with this extra position, running then in 8th position as he is. Maldonado looking to try and take it away from him. The checkered flag, incidentally, has gone out just a little bit early. The time hadn't quite ticked down, and so the race victory goes the way of Lucas Pettersson. He gets to lift the winner's trophy a little bit earlier maybe than he expected. Lucas Pettersson takes the first victory of the day here, the second race of the weekend for the BRDC British Formula 3 Championship, with Benjamin Pedersen 3.1 seconds back at the flag. Neil Verhagen comes home in 3rd, Caleb Frederick 4th, Nazim Azman 5th, and Clement Novak in 6th, with Hampus Eriksson, Jonathan Hogard, Manuel Maldonado and Pavan Ravashankar rounding out the top 10. The Carlin boys then celebrate a job well done there. It's not a rare thing to see a Carlin car winning a BRDC British Formula 3 race. Indeed, one of their drivers, Clement Novak, is the championship leader. They're one of those teams, aren't they, Graham, that regardless of what area of single-seater racing they are competing in, they are always somewhere near the pointy end.
Absolutely, and sports car racing now, actually moving to sports car racing as well, Carlin, looking for other areas to expand to, but yes, another trophy in the county-wide trophy cabinet that Trevor Carlin and co have actually got. That was a great control race from the young man at the front of that race. Yes, albeit reverse grid, but you've got to just keep that advantage. He did that, drove away, was challenged briefly by Pedersen from behind, but I thought withstood that challenge very well indeed. And as I said a little earlier, I think we see that result.
Yep, Lucas Pettersson then with the victory, 3.1 seconds clear of Benjamin Pedersen in 2nd. Neil Verhagen is 3rd. 3 different teams in the top 3 positions as well, but it is Carlin that come out on top. Caleb Frederick 4th, Nazim Azman 5th, and Clement Novak in 6th position. Hampus Eriksson, Jonathan Hogard, Manuel Maldonado are next. Hogard, I think, will be a bit disappointed there with 8th position. Pavan Ravashankar rounds out the top 10. Ayrton Simmons also down in 11th. That's not really what he was hoping for. He'll be looking to make good on his better track position from his race 3 grid position later on today. Chris Wright, Kian Jewis had dramas, so he's down in 13th. Tascal Chimancol pitted at the end of the opening lap, and Ulyss Topalov also was an early pit visitor and finished a lap down in 15th place. Josh Mason, the one retirement after his excursion into the barriers at Rich's Corner. leader then, or the winner, excuse me, down into the paddock, and now it all starts to sink in that he has won his first ever BRDC British Formula 3 Championship race, and it's, a fairly happy Lucas Pettersson, who now clambers out of his car, and he will be looking to try and do the same again later on, but with the grid for race 3 being decided upon the qualifying times rather than any sort of a reverse grid or whatnot. He'll have some overtaking to do to repeat that sort of a result. Championship-wise, Novalak will take a few points out of Jonathan Hoggard, not only because he beat him in that race, but because he overtook a couple more cars as well that Jonathan did. And Simmons, though, I reckon is going to lose third place in the points potentially, so there will be some shuffling of the championship order. A long way to go though, triple headers at every one of the BRDC British Formula 3 rounds, so lots more races, lots more points on offer, and lots more drivers starting now, Graham, to show their potential. This is always fascinating, isn't it, in a series full of young, up-and-coming single-seater drivers. Sometimes when it's your first couple of races in the category, you take a bit of time to get up to speed, and then as the season goes on, they get quicker and quicker and quicker.
There's a lot of psychology at this stage of a young driver's career, and as I say, we'll be interested to see what young Lucas can actually draw from, clearly, his biggest result so far here. It is a long season, lots of racing, and as we've seen already, lots of incident.
Yeah, let's remind ourselves of some of those incidents. Benjamin Pettersson leading the way, Lucas Pettersson, excuse me, leading the way from the start. The drama was behind, though, as Nazim Asman and Josh Mason tangled at Riches. Mason, the unfortunate victim in all of that, ended up headbutting the barriers, and that brought about a safety car. Chris Wright found himself taking off, but not quite in the way in which he would have been hoping on a couple of occasions, whilst Cian Jewis, had damage from contact, which lost him his front wing. He locked up and went straight on down at the complex. Ayrton Simmons had a day to forget as well. But for Lucas Pettersson, it was his first ever race victory. A great way to start his day. Race number 3 is later on.